just got back from the Gamblers Anonymous meeting last week. And the first guy gets up there and says, wow, I had to come back in because I'm thinking about betting preseason football. But that's right around the corner, and the temptation will be dangling out there. And I'm sure the FanDuel people would love to tempt you into thinking that this was something you could make a score on. I don't know that it is. And the man who would probably be on the opposite side of that argument joins us right now from outkick.com. And, of course, Monster when it comes to any kind of NFL inside information. He's the number one guy. Mr. Jason Cole joins us here on the program. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I always thought that betting on preseason football is, without question, the lowest form of degeneracy.
You're talking to our audience here. That's saying a lot. We were betting Korean baseball during the pandemic. Yeah.
Not only the audience for the show, I think that proves nothing.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Peel yourself off the mat Monday here on the Defo Show. Getting another week started, getting another week closer to actual NFL action when virtually everybody that we know will be sending it in with both fists during the course of the football season, all looking for an angle, all looking for a way to possibly win a bet, and most likely venturing into an area of self-sabotage never before experienced, because we know if there's a way to fuck things up, we'll find it when it comes to betting. I had one of those kind of weekends, and I probably shouldn't complain about it, Lubie. How are you, by the way? Michael Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Good to be with you. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, enlighten us a little bit on what's going on around the football training camps coming up a bit later on in the program. And how was your weekend overall, Lubie? Did you do anything of any significance? Did you discipline the dog? Did you, you took the wife out to dinner. That was good. How'd that go?
It went really well. Union, they do a really good job. Was not comped, so I don't know. I don't know if I get that Mayo treatment or not. But Roberto, we had ordered a wine. We would have loved his help, but he was.
This is a Union Kitchen and Bar, Wilton Manors, Florida.
The Wilton Manors area,
yeah,
around Fort Lauderdale. Nice lounge, bistro kind of atmosphere, really good vibe, good food, not elevated, but not too crazy, and very interesting, and a great wine list if you like wine. Roberto Sommelier, co-owner with his wife, the chef in the back. He handles the front, she handles the back. A really cool.
It's literally mom and pop, even though it's yes. An up. I mean, I wouldn't say it was an upscale place because the atmosphere is somewhat casual, but yes. Nonetheless, I mean, the food itself, yes. Is kind of indicative of a place that really has some style.
Yes, it's style, class, but it's not, going to kill you.
Yeah,
in the pocket. And we had ordered a wine because Roberto was busy, and then Roberto brings over another wine, which is what we wanted. We wanted his expertise. Really knows his stuff. And it was a beautiful wine out of Spain, the Basque region of Spain, a rosé. And then we ordered.
Did it have a highlight player on the label?
No, it did not. It did not have cornbread on it. It was a nice wine. We ordered some stuff, and then Christy came out, the chef in the back. She got to meet my wife, and they brought a couple extra pasta appetizers that we didn't pay for, but
just
overall,
what you needed. Yeah.
We're not going to say no. And it was great. We had a really good time. There was a nice crowd. It wasn't too busy. It wasn't too loud, but it wasn't dead. It was a nice mix, and it's a really cool place. And I would say if you had a chance to get out there, we don't get out a lot because we're both tired. I'm up early every day.
You're too young to be tired.
Hours. I'm exhausted all the time. So we don't get out a lot on the weekends. We do a lot of Uber eating and just scrounging from the house. So it was nice to get out if you're in the South Florida area or you're visiting. It's a really nice place, and we had a good time. And I presume Defo will get out there soon because a lot of the dishes are vegetarian in nature. I don't know if they're vegan, but they're vegetarian in nature. I know this thing doesn't really eat red meat anymore, so I think she'd enjoy it as well.
No, I think she would. No, it was a good place. So we were there with Mike Mayo's Lunchbox last week. They took real good care of us. Then Mayo went back, schnorred himself a free dinner, although he says he paid, which he didn't pay. What kind of bullshit? He might have paid for like the tip, even that he probably wanted comped. Can you comp the tip? All right, we have a lot of stuff to get into, and I had some misfortune over the weekend,
Well,
and
it's your weekend.
and a sad admission that really delves deep into the subconscious here when it comes to degenerate gambling. All right, it started out Friday. I did all right. I mean, I held my own there at Gulfstream Park, but I had a chance to make a little bit of a score. The stewards in Canada are blind as bats, and probably, I mean, if you ever wanted to scream that something reeked of a fix, this was it. And I don't like to question my favorite sport, the great sport of thoroughbred racing. I can watch it all day, whether I have money on it or not. I can entertain myself with mind bets. Those are a lot less painful than my monetary bets. But I've been kind of hanging in there lately. I mean, up and down, but nothing, no big significant losses, no substantial wins. So I'm there on Friday. I'm hitting a couple of things, and I'm holding, I guess, about $10 worth of exacta tickets on the winning combination as they crossed the wire. It was a little bit of a bumping incident. 3 horses were pretty much together. Appeared to me like the horse that ended up running third caused the problem himself. All right. Just kind of veered into another horse and got bumped around a little bit and ended up third. They're very close at the finish, within a half length of each other. So I have the winner, I have second. And even if there was a bumping incident between the second and third place finishers, I've got it either way. For a little less money, but it was a longer price. So I'm probably looking at cash and maybe $150 worth of tickets, right? Which is a nice little turning point in your day, because you go from maybe being stuck 40 to up $1.10. Now you get a little bit more bold. Maybe you hit something. It sets up your whole day. I don't even see this, but sure enough, somebody's screaming, "Hey, there's an inquiry. He's coming down. He's coming down." And we're like, who the fuck are you, man? I mean, where did you come from? And sure enough, there it is. Inquiry on all 3 horses.
Oh, Jesus.
All right. I watched the replay. I see nothing. I still see the same thing that I saw before, that the horse that actually got bumped around, it didn't cost him a position, because it seemed to me that he was that horse was the reason that the bumping occurred. It goes on for a long time. They look at the thing. Now, at Woodbine in Canada, this is in Toronto, this racetrack, for some reason, I don't know, what is up with these schnooks that are in the steward's box. They stop looking at the video, which is usually a sign that they've made their decision. And then forever, the screen is just locked on the numbers as they finished originally. And that's always dangerous, because the longer it takes, the more you're thinking they're punching out tickets and you're about to get screwed. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, they take the winning horse down, which to me, I mean, it appeared he did nothing, and put him third. So not only do they take me out of the exactas, which I had, even if they dropped this horse down a second, I mean, that was logical, actually, that if they were going to disqualify this winning horse, that he was going to have to be placed behind the horse that ended up third. So those 2 horses move up a spot, which completely screwed me out of everything. So now I have a bunch. And what do you do, right? You can complain all you want to the people around you. It isn't going to change, everybody. If Trump gets elected again, it isn't going to change. It's going to be more of the same. If that's what you want, that's fine. We applaud you. But yeah, so I feel like I got screwed there. And that was the word around the track. Was that retribution from the gods of gambling, Lubie? Because the week before, I had been left up with that Forte race, which was a much more widely discussed disqualification, or non-disqualification in this case, because Mike Rapoli, the guy from Vitamin Water, who owns a ton of racehorses and has dumped like zillions of dollars into the game. He's, a nice representative for the game. Also seems to be a good ambassador. He's always having fun. He's always saying positive things. He's riding the wave of emotion with all of these winners that he has in various stakes races and Breeders' Cup around the country. But he started bitching that, hey, you know what? It's getting a little weird here. I'm going to get out of the game if we can't get some kind of more effective what would it be? Legislation of how drugs are administered and what the penalties are and all this stuff. And sure enough, it was his horse, Forte, who won the Florida Derby here, that appeared to cause Angel of Empire a position, or to lose a position. Most people felt that this horse would be disqualified. He wasn't. I benefited from that. And I think a week later, Is it always? Does it always have to even out, Lubie? Because it certainly doesn't even out monetarily for some reason. But do they have to get you back for one? I think they did here. Now, the other people who had what was absolutely a losing ticket on that Woodbine race and ended up getting elevated into winning positions. They're probably thinking, that's 6. What a piece of shit. Did you see the way he came over? He clobbered everybody. What are you talking about? It looked like Micah Parsons in practice. Mowing down another, quarterback. Unbelievable. So that was one. And then yesterday, Saturday, I guess it was, and this was tragic and another unfortunate incident. Of course, it occurs on national television. Not that, these things should be hidden. But it just seems like every time sports, thoroughbred racing is in the spotlight, something tragic has been happening lately, right? We had all of that stuff around the Kentucky Derby and the horses dying at Churchill Downs to the point where they actually shut Churchill Downs down and moved all of their remaining races in the meet to Ellis Park, which, it tells you what kind of shithole this place must be. I've never been there. Can you imagine, Lubie? Ellis Park. Anybody been to Ellis Park? Show of hands out there? Nobody? All right, so they move it to, it's another track in Kentucky, but considered to be relatively minor compared to Churchill Downs. So, and you had all that controversy going on, and they shut the place down, and they didn't do anything. They shut down Churchill Downs for like 3 months, and they concluded, well, we've done what we can. So, and it's not funny, I don't mean to laugh at it, but, it just seems like whenever people are looking for answers in the category, it happened at Santa Anita, that they really never come up with anything. They make a few cosmetic changes, and then the beat goes on. And that sparks that debate whether or not horse racing should be sanctioned, period, right? Still, the same element is in play there where you're talking about, well, the horse can't decide whether or not it wants to run, whereas if a guy goes into boxing or MMA or football, they know that there are inherent risks involved in playing a sport that's that physical in nature. This happened in the test stakes at Saratoga. And it was, almost sickening to watch because you had a horse, Maple Leaf Mel was the name of the horse, owned by Bill Parcells, who literally, Lubie, if there's a way to lose a race, I can find it. I did have that horse that jumped into the infield lake at Gulfstream many years ago, is in front by 4 or 5 lengths, tiring a little bit, and you're thinking, okay, the wire's coming up, so probably, you can kind of do the equation when you see other horses closing, and you can say, this horse is going to hang on somehow. It looked like he was going to hang on, and my buddy is screaming behind me, you got it, you got it, you got it. And sure enough, I got what? I got, the splash of the water from that horse jumping into the infield lake, coming all the way up to the 3rd level of the grandstand where I was and hitting me in the face with the fact that, once again, I was a loser. So this Maple Leaf Mel is in front. Now, I was in a position to cash an exacta ticket because the horse I needed to run second wheels into second and is never going to catch the winner. Literally, Lubie, 3 steps from the wire, the horse snaps a leg, goes down, and doesn't finish the race.
Oh.
Had it fallen forward another foot, it would have been across the finish line. Now, the tragedy is they had to euthanize the horse, and, it was another, as I said, tragic and, a really sad incident that took place in thoroughbred racing. And yet, see, now, and this is when, if you're a little bit of a sick degenerate. And it didn't hurt me that badly because I didn't have a ton of money on this combination. But nonetheless, are you starting to think, should I show the guy my losing tickets on the horse that just died?
Jesus.
This wasn't the 16th ball, Lubie, where my ashes are going to be buried. This was 2 steps from the wire. Wow. So, very unfortunate incident. But that's how my luck was running, which is why with this $1.5 billion that's on the line, that's coming up in the next Mega Millions drawing, which I've been consistently throwing 20 at every time that these jackpots have gone. But when I get in excess of like 700-800 million, I don't know. Would it be bad to win like 3 million in a normal jackpot when it goes back to scratch? It pays what, like $5 million when it first starts out,
which is still a ridiculous amount of money that would change most people's lives.
Oh, it'd be more than enough for me to get out. $5 million, I'm out at this point. We only need one $5 million score, Lubie, and that's it. I'll keep doing this if we're making money, but nonetheless, one good score, one FanDuel contract, and it's all over, my friend. It's all over. You would not need any more money to get out the door. Would you agree? I mean, that seems $5 million. Because that get you out, people? What do you think? 5 million?
I mean, if you invest it right, you don't even need to invest in risky shit when it's money like that. You usually need 5% return. If you found something that was 5% return, which is nothing, especially right now.
So you're making $250,000 a year for expenses.
Yeah, I mean, you keep $1 million and you put 4 away. You would make hundreds of thousands of dollars just on interest. Yes.
See, if I win this 1.5 billion, I've already decided that I'm going to take like 10 million and just blow it. That's just going to be party money for the first year.
Billions, yes, and you can waste some millions, yes.
Yeah, sure. That'll be nice. How much do I have to give you if I win this thing?
You don't have to give me anything. I didn't put anything into it. That's on you.
No, I mean, come on. You're going to take care. It's more money than anybody would know what to do with. I mean, I've already decided to divvy it up among many of my friends. But that's where I'm getting the argument from Mustang, even though we haven't won the money.
That's why I don't.
It's like you're giving so and so what? The Polyman? No, she likes the Polyman. Yeah,
it's billions. I mean, whatever.
You would want to ease the pain for everybody, wouldn't you? I mean, come on, $1.5 billion. I'm 72 years old. I couldn't spend that in my lifetime. You'd like to leave a big chunk for the kids and the grandkids, but I mean, you could take care of a lot of your friends also, even if it was just $1 million, right? If I handed you $1 million in cash, you would have to say, "Hey, thank you, Defo."
Myself, yes, it would be.
You're not such an asshole after all.
It would be life changing, yes. But that's the thing. That's what you do. Is you give people a certain amount of money up front, and then that's it. Like, you don't keep giving out handouts the whole time.
Oh no, it's lose my number after that. I mean, that would be the condition.
That's it. Yes, that's what you do.
Here's your $1 million, Lubie. Don't ever contact me again.
Yes, no, I would. That's
for money. For money.
People are greedy, and that's what happens with money like that. Is they keep asking, and you keep giving. They're like, oh fuck, where did all the money go?
I couldn't lose this, but I have a strategy now, and I'll be taking off after the show, or after the Mike Mayo Lunchbox show, and I'm going to be staking out convenience stores in Umatilla and deciding where I'm going to spend my 20. It'll be worth the drive to wherever I have to go. But although somebody just hit for $1 million, like at a Publix in Weston.
Okay.
So, but it was $1 million. So, I mean, would you be thinking then that was in the Powerball? But would you be thinking then that, oh, geez, I mean, this person was one number off from winning like $1.5 billion?
See, most
would you be pissed at that point?
Thing and go, oh fuck, $1 million. I was ready for $1 billion. I'm thinking I'd be like, fuck $1 million. Like, that would change everything.
I mean, you could ease the pain by realizing that you still had $1 million coming, which I think they whack it down to about $500,000 by the time. How is it that they just grab the tax money right away? It's so disgusting that you would have to pay taxes on gambling winnings. There's a law that should change.
It's stupid.
If Trump was running on a campaign that, hey, there's no more tax on gambling winnings when you win a big jackpot, I think I would vote for him in spite of all of the other lunacy. What do you think? Would it be worth a vote for the Republican Party at that point? I don't know. Everybody's pointing out what a criminal Joe Biden is. Have you seen real evidence of that, Lubie?
What by what, though? That's
this deal with the Chinese, with Hunter Biden. I mean, it does look a little fishy, you would have to say.
Yeah, but first of all, he wasn't president. That's the thing that everyone's missing is Trump was in office when all 5 of these things happened. He was in office, and they're not all he did while in office. He was in office at the end of his time and did all 5 of these things. Like his whole tenure, he was doing criminal shit. Okay?
Oh, no doubt.
So just stop bringing up Joe Biden. Stop. They're separate entities. They have nothing to do with each other. And Trump, we have mounds of evidence. Yeah, he still hasn't been convicted of anything. Biden, there's no evidence. Biden is just, well, if you think circumstantial, it doesn't put away someone, unless you're OJ, because the circumstantial was literally so fucking dumbfounding that it was ridiculous. And he still got off, actually, with the mounds.
Bloody glove at OJ's house. Bloody glove at the crime
scene. Clothes blood. Like, he was full of blood. Like, everywhere was blood. Like, no one's...
His whereabouts, he couldn't establish. No, that was a bad one. He
still got off, and he still got off.
Well, that was, we know what happened there, man.
Whatever.
Johnny Cochran with the race card, and he found a couple of jurors that actually bought it.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
And Biden, they don't have any evidence of anything, so just stop. They've done investigations. They're not.
Well, it doesn't, quit, Donald Trump from all of his activities, which, I mean, cops got killed, literally. I can't get away from that. Cops got killed trying to protect the Capitol building while this guy was sitting there with his big fat face going, "Oh, look, they love me."
I don't
And you're
know.
thinking, and he's recommending that they go ahead and hang his vice president because he didn't have the guts to do something illegal.
Criminal shit. Exactly. Look, it's like what a little kid does. When a kid
Yeah.
gets caught, they point out first of all, what that person over there did has nothing to do with
Yeah.
me. I'm still should be in trouble.
Well, what about Johnny? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But on top of that, they don't have anything on Biden. So just shut the fuck up about Biden. Shut up.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with him.
Well, and that doesn't work in court, that strategy.
No, they don't give a shit about.
Yeah. I mean, and what's funny about that, especially in the federal system, when you're talking about a white collar crime, it's usually the guy that actually orchestrated the whole thing that was the first guy to flip. And so, I mean, the accuser is the guy that actually did the most damage. That's why I wonder when Trump is going to flip on all of his sycophants there. I don't think they're going to give him that opportunity. But, you can't tell the judge in federal court, "Hey, what about so-and-so?" And the point being of this story is that usually that so-and-so is the guy that really did it.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're barking up just a very dead alley there. Nonetheless, it fascinates me. I mean, I'm looking at people. I'm trying to think, well, what did this guy, do for you while he was in office? I don't know. I mean, to me, nothing. I guess he saved a bunch of rich people a lot of tax money.
He set us up for failure. Well, they're still like that's how good of a job Biden's done. They were not only they were expecting a total, not a depression. What the fuck? I can't. Recession, a total recession. They were like every economic indicator, every economist said we will not only have a recession, we're already in it, and it's going to be horrendous.
Yeah.
It's not cyclical. Like they took actual actions early on in Biden's presidency to stave off a recession to the point where we dipped our toe in it, we rebounded, and now we're not only not in a recession, the economists are like, oh shit, we may not actually go into a recession. So like all the things that a president gets credit for that usually locks them in, Biden did. Like in the middle of facing a COVID and a president who didn't give a shit.
But people denounce his economy. Even supporters say he's doing a lousy job.
Inflation is totally turned around. It's not only slowed, it's stopped, and the economy's booming. So look, not life's great for everyone. Don't get me wrong. Wages, there's a lot of issues in this country, obviously. But he came into a shit show. Is senile.
Well, yeah, same like Obama. Yeah,
it's not a hell of a job. So
it's too depressing. You know what? I'm sorry I brought it
up every day. So I'm like, all right, I'll talk. I
can't help it. I'm just amazed. I see people that I know that I actually consider to be relatively intelligent, and they're diehard Trump supporters, and you're thinking, what did this guy do for you that makes you think, wow, what a dynamic leader? We really need this guy back in office. All right, soccer very much in the news, Lubie. The U.S. women's team bombed out. I don't know that was unanticipated after their poor showing in the group play.
The group.
Sweden, I don't know what kind of team they are, but their goaltender looked like Gump fucking Worsley. Well, she didn't look anything like the Gump physically, but wow. I mean, did that woman keep that team in the game? U.S. could have had 10 goals in that game. It was amazing. And that was kind of the MO for the earlier play also, where they had these dynamic scoring opportunities where you literally couldn't even imagine anybody missing the net, right? I could have put Liam, my grandson, 5 years old, in front of the net there, and he could have booted it in, and they couldn't get it done. So they get kind of a reprieve. They go into the knockout round anyway, round of 16, and they get knocked out on like the hairiest of goals, where Sweden has one and a nice. You had actually an earlier save made by the U.S. goaltender, who I don't know if she even had a single save during the tournament before that. I don't think there was even a shot on goal by the opposition. All of a sudden, she's in the mix here. She makes one save during the penalty kick deciding portion of the game there at the end. And then looks like she's made another one, and the ball's like a half a millimeter over the goal line. They have, new measuring devices there. I guess they use the equivalent of what would be the tennis Hawkeye to determine whether the ball was over the goal. Apparently it was. Nobody seemed to want to dispute that. And the U.S. gets knocked out. Everybody's pointing fingers at your girl, Lubie, Megan Rapinoe.
I love that. I love that it came down to a kick from her.
Others missed also, though. I mean, she's being singled out here, I think.
Well, they missed the net totally. And the goalie had made their move. The goalie made the move. The net was wide open, and she booted it. Wasn't even close to the fucking
Went
net.
over, yeah.
Look, I'm not a right-wing loon, as you just heard my diatribe, okay? It's very clear where I stand. So
people didn't like this team, though.
Everything I'm going to say after this makes me sound like I'm a right, because all the right-wing loons, which is it's such a weird thing for like the Republicans to be excited when America does bad. Like they're so into their political bullshit that they actually root against America. Like the professor rooted against America.
It's like the guy showing you his losing tickets on Maple Leaf Mel and saying, "Can you believe this? The horse fucking falls down 3 feet from the wine." Never mind it. Like a jockey could have been maimed hurt badly, and fortunately he was okay, and the horse was euthanized. And oddly, I mean, there's a sports connection there through the fact that Parcells was the owner, or at least part owner. He may have owned the horse outright. But it's just a tragedy, right? You're an animal lover. You don't like to see this.
That's where the focus should be.
Yeah.
We're humans,
but instead, I got a guy coming over to me, and I have losing tickets on this also. I mean, I wasn't going to make any substantial score, but better than throwing them away, right? Plus, you had the race won. I mean, literally, the horse is one step from the wire, Lubie. One more jump, and even if the horse had tumbled down, you would have won the race. There was no way to lose from that point, except for what happened. And it's in poor taste, though, isn't it, for a guy to come up to you at the track and start bitching about, "Hey, I had the exacta 6 times. I can't believe it. Oh, my God. I told you it was going to be an 81.
You don't do it then.
Meanwhile, like you see the ambulance come out and they put that, that cloth up, they put a curtain up so that, the fans don't see the horse being put down. And, you're thinking that's not good what's going on there behind that curtain. Yeah. And this guy's crying to me. I had it. I can't believe it. I had it. Oh, my God. I love Maple Leaf Mel today. Unbelievable. It's blasphemous. Rooting against the U.S. team. Is it the same thing? I couldn't root against the team. And I've come not to despise Megan Rapinoe as much as everybody else. Well, after seeing a little piece yesterday, they had some piece on SportsCenter about her retirement. It was like a Rinaldi type of tearjerker piece about how wonderful she is. And I'm not a fan. I wasn't a fan of the kneeling during the national anthem, in the sense, not that I'm some militant right winger, but and I believe in protest and all of that. I just my feeling was, you're representing the United States. Go ahead, stand for the anthem, and then try to orchestrate your change because of the fact that you have these freedoms. So, respect the fact that at least, if you were, I don't know, it's kind of, I mean, if you think about it, it's a paradoxical thing, and at the same time, a little catch-22. I mean, do you protest by kneeling during the anthem, or do you protest or acknowledge that, hey, we have the right to do all these things, so I'm going to go and do my thing, but thank you, America, for giving me this opportunity. What do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both.
I mean, it's symbolism either way that probably is sort of irrelevant in the overall scheme of things. But, people really resented Megan Rapinoe for that and the show-off mentality.
Well, no, I mean, it was a trans. It was a trans thing, and they don't give a shit about the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
They love bragging athletes. That's what the right's good at, covering up why they're upset with someone. And why they don't like Trump because of anything except for that he hates people. Trump literally embodies everything they dislike. His base is family value, religious zealots.
It's a little classless for a potential president of the United States and an eventual president, now former, to be trying to humiliate disabled people. And I mean that. If that didn't lose you, I mean, all the other stuff, right? I mean, the fact that when he's up there mimicking this poor, reporter that unfortunately was inflicted with something that was very inhibiting and debilitating for him, and he's up there making fun of the guy, and everybody's like, I mean, it really is. It's like the bully ranking out people, when you're all gathered together by the mailboxes on the streets of Brooklyn when I was a kid. And everybody just, does the old Billy Bush thing. And you think that's as despicable as anything, I've ever seen from you couldn't have a more classless move from a guy that's going to be leading the country. No,
they didn't. Yeah, no, he was rooting against America. Like, that's fucking weird. But their issue wasn't she wanted equal wages, even though it makes no sense for the women to get equal wage because no one watches. I love you, Sarni. No one watches compared to the regular World Cup, so they're not going to get equal wages. So I actually agree with them in that regard. That's a stupid ass stance, and it's not going to happen. That wasn't why they didn't like her, though. It wasn't about the things that maybe people on both sides could sort of agree with. It was because of the trans stance. And her trans stance was fucking something I don't agree with either. I openly admit.
What was her position?
She's on the thing where she really feels like the trans should be treated equal, even when it comes to sports. And I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. If you're born a man, you can take all the goddamn hormones you want. You're not the same thing as a fucking woman. On a playing field. You're just not like.
I mean, it's one thing to want to be identified as a woman and to live your life as a woman, but if it's giving you that much of an unfair advantage, which we have seen, I mean, I think it's pretty clear you've had people that were relatively mediocre as male competitors, and they, as trans, athletes end up in the women's competition. And isn't it very much what's happening with Messi in the MLS?
Well, no, I mean, that team actually is not that good. You haven't watched. They almost lost. The Dallas team they played yesterday is like 8th in their conference.
Yeah.
They were down 4-2. And had to.
But I'm just talking in terms of dominance. I mean, the guy's got 7 goals in 3 games.
Oh, yeah, he's playing well and he's playing fine, but it doesn't mean that team's going to just win it all. I think they're going to struggle when they play actual real competition.
Yeah. Was it 4 games he's playing, 7 goals? Yeah, something like that.
So look, I dress how you want, act how you want, date who you want, do whatever the hell job you want. You should get paid equally if you do the same job with the same level of work.
But don't take away the accomplishments of Katie Ledecky. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's be real. Just the physics of it, the biology of it, even after the hormones, you're still not the equivalent of a biological. You're just not. And I'm not trying to.
It's sort of on a level of the steroid, use versus, the people that were competing while they were clean. Yes. Yeah.
It's not a level. It's just not a level playing field. What do you do? I don't know what you do. Maybe have a trans division. I don't know. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but just by a lot, it's not the same. It's just, and it's not fair to women.
Yeah.
To have to go against a dude. I mean, that's what you are biologically.
Well, I mean, imagine Jenner, if he had done this earlier, competing in the women's decathlon.
Yeah, come on.
Is there a women's decathlon, or they only go like heptathlon?
I'm sure, I don't
know. The women in the Olympics compete in the decathlon. I want to say no to that, Lubie. I want to say they have a different event with less overall events. What do you think? Is that possibly true?
I have no idea.
Is there a women's decathlon in the Olympic Games? Here we are. We've been doing this. I've been doing this like 60 years and watching sports since I was born, and I couldn't tell you. I want to say that they have like the 5 event one is what? The pentathlon?
Oh, good. Maybe.
Is that what it is?
No idea.
5 events? I think I want to say they do that, and they don't do a decathlon. Name me a famous women's decathlete.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I've never watched any of these things.
In the Olympics, Bruce Jenner won the decathlon. That's how he got famous.
Events in one. I get that. I've never watched any.
Jay Fiedler was a decathlon competitor. Jay Fiedler, man, he could throw that spear, whatever that was. Can we even say he could throw it? He could chuck a spear. I don't think so.
It was a spear. Yeah. I'm making allusions to
javelin. The javelin. That's what it is.
It's still like a spear.
Yeah.
Look, so that's why the right couldn't stand Rapinoe was she stood tall on, like, if you say anything about trans people, she freaks out. She fucking loses it.
But she seemed to be an advocate for some good things, I mean, in this piece that I saw last night. That's why maybe I've softened my stance. I mean, everybody's a little bit different, right?
Look, she fights for equal rights and equal pay. But my problem is they're not living in reality. Like, the ratings for the Women's World Cup, Sarno was like, oh, they're way up. And they're like the men would be freaking out if the ratings were the same. Like, if you do the same job with the same results.
I don't mind the equal pay thing. I don't know.
You get paid equal when a quarter or a tenth of the people watch. A tenth of the people buy merchandise. Up until now, because again, what they just did, the men have done many a time, losing the fucking knockout stage. The men have done that almost every goddamn World Cup.
But women have achieved that in tennis, have they not?
Yeah, but exactly.
And there was a real argument there. I mean, McEnroe was one of the early advocates for the idea that was ridiculous. and a very well-respected voice in the tennis world as he became like the premier analyst in the game and maybe in all of sports. But he was saying, "Hey, look, the men go out there and they're playing 5-setters, and you're paying women to play 3 sets." And then on top of that, his other contention was like the number 150 guy in the world would beat the number 1 women's player, 9 times out of 10, if not all 10.
Yeah, but
So the ability wasn't the same. I don't know that argument was going to, be very favorable in terms of people that are advocates for women's rights. But, I mean, if you go back to the team that really caught everybody's imagination, and I think should be brought up on criminal charges. So all of those girls, no? Because look what really happened here. It is kind of like, the Trump sycophants where, all those little girls that how endearing was all that where, you had Mia Hamm and Chastain and Foudy and all these little girls are idolizing them. And then what did it do, Lubie? And it was part of the, a reason that society is sunk to such depths. And that is, it got all of these little girls or their parents put them into soccer. Thinking, wow, this is cool. And it's not. It's a stupid sport. It's the dumbest game that I've ever seen. I'd be more inclined. I would imagine the ratings for pickleball. Now, is this, did I see this right yesterday? CBS television, right, on a Saturday is airing a pickleball tournament.
Well, what else is there to air? The
pickleball
preseason is only at nighttime, so you can't really air preseason football. I don't think they have a baseball.
Wouldn't a rerun of an old Jerry Quarry fight have been more interesting, right? At least you're watching a guy getting the shit beat out of him. No,
people like pickleball. I don't know why I would watch someone else play pickleball, but I have no idea. I don't know.
Imagine this: you're home watching TV, watching people play pickleball.
I don't know.
Cornhole would be the only thing I think that would, and yet I find myself fascinated in staying on these cornhole events that are being televised on ESPN2. Are we bereft of something on the sports landscape that this is where we're at right now?
Right now, yeah.
Televised pickleball and cornhole.
100%.
Holy shit, Lubie. And I've seen enough of it to make me feel really badly about the way I'm living my life. Because there's no way that you should have caught 1 second of any of this action, no? I mean, even if you woke up at 3 a.m, your immediate thing would be to try to find a remote. Where is it? Where is it? Hey, come on, Mustang, give it up. Does your wife sleep on the remote, Lubie? Do you sleep with the television on?
No, I see television off, and I make sure to put the remote away. Otherwise, we always fucking lose it.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't pay any attention to it, but seems to have a knack for losing it every time she touches it. So I'm really cognizant of it because I hate losing the remote. It annoys the living shit out of me.
Can't you clone remotes? I mean, we should,
Oh, you can buy universal. Your phone can become a remote for almost anything nowadays.
That's too technically challenging for me. That's not happening. All right, so the 2 soccer stories where we're immersed in Messi mania. Is that still going on around the world, or am I seeing that sort of declining as they realize that Messi's in there literally like it is Danny Almonte pitching for Staten Island, isn't it?
The problem is,
and you're thinking, why is that kid smoking in the dugout? I mean, he's got a cigarette, he's taking a drag of, got a beer going. He looked like Charlie Huff at that spring training session that I saw when he had a brandy in one hand, cigarette in the other, and I'm thinking, that's your opening day starter? Looked like Burgess Meredith, in the Penguin. That was odd. Yeah, that was an epiphany. Dave Dombrowski, I think, was doing an interview with me at the time. He's sitting down, we're watching Huff at the bar there, and I'm thinking, really, Dave? That's your opening day starter, huh? Good luck with this. They, they won that day. That was all that really mattered. Talk about some bad officiating, huh? That first pitch from Charlie Huff. I mean, it's in the dirt, Lubie. It wasn't, I forget the name of the umpire. It wasn't Eric Gregg. Gregg was the guy with the Fred McGriff strike.
Yes.
That still, to this day, there's a chalk outline of Fred McGriff there at Hard Rock Stadium, right where the batter's box was. I guess that would be around the 10-yard line or the goal line if you're watching a football game. Wasn't that where home plate was at Hard Rock? Wasn't really configured for baseball, was it?
No.
Not at all. Neither are these, revamped Marlins. Speaking of, tragedy over the weekend, Lubie, wow. The best laid plans of mice and men. sometimes just don't add up to a pile of crap, do they? I mean, this Kim Ng looked like she had pulled off genius maneuvers, didn't she? I don't know. I'm always suspect of any of these power hitters that don't hit above the Mendoza line, because you're worried that all of a sudden they'll just stop hitting home runs, and then what do they give you? Nothing. It's like
Nothing.
zero. They
Yeah,
become a negative. I don't know how this Jake Berger is doing. I know he had a good game the first game, but obviously he hasn't done much since, you would have to think. Is that an ignorant statement just based on the results? Maybe he's on
so
fire.
truth, he's nothing. No, they can't hit. They just got annihilated in the Texas series. They can't
Shut out again yesterday.
The bullpen sucks.
Yeah.
They've totally fallen off. Like, I wanted them to go all in, and I'm glad, and I give them credit for doing it.
The moves made sense, though. They really did. You got
100%.
Robertson a closer because AJ Puke was giving it up every time he came out there. You needed somebody that had a little bit of pop in their bat. So you get this Berger guy for Segura, who was hovering around the Mendoza line all year and only had a handful of homers. And, over at first base, Garrett Cooper was okay, but you're thinking Josh Bell's a better ball player, no? Than Garrett Cooper, at least in terms of established credentials. And, the ability to maybe catch fire. He goes 4 for 5 the first game. It looks great. And ever since then, it's been a disaster. Yet, Lubie, and this is the beautiful thing about expanded playoffs, everybody is eligible. Holy Gary Bettman. The entire league is still alive, including your Marlins. Now, is there time to right the ship, or is it sinking so badly, Lubie? Are we taking on water like the Titanic here? What do you think? What's going to happen? Because they're still only a half game out of that third wild card spot, but the neighborhood has gotten a little bit more dense there as you now have the Cubs in the mix, and they hold the third spot in a deadlock with Cincinnati, a dead heat. So the Marlins still, surprisingly, only a half game out of a playoff position.
Oh, because the Reds and Diamondbacks are playing just as bad as the Marlins. They've all fucking fallen apart right around.
And the Reds, who recently were like one of the most exciting teams in baseball.
Man, they're a
disaster. As were the Arizona Diamondbacks, who now completely, they blown, literally.
Yes.
They're horrible. They're a game and a half back. San Diego's lurking 3 games back at a wild card. Some people think San Diego is destined to turn it around. I don't know. But a lot of teams to leapfrog. Still a chance, Lubie. And yet, remember, I was looking at this all year. The very, very, low, expectation for the Marlins in their final win tally by whoever was projecting this on CBS Sportsline. And remember, we were saying how weird is it that, they only had like 50 wins and they're only projected to win like 81 games, even though they were about midway through the season.
Well, this is why series with the Phillies that I think they got swept, right? They got swept with the Phillies. Series with the Rangers that they got swept.
Phillies, they won 1 out of 4.
Okay. Oh, sorry. It was a 4-game series. So they get swept. They won 1 of 4.
Right.
Swept
and then they then got swept. Yeah.
They play the Reds next, playoff contender.
Okay.
Then they play the Yankees, playoff contender.
Right.
Then they play the Astros, defending champion, playoff contender. And then the Dodgers. So that's why they literally play, I think, 7 straight playoff contenders in a row. Oh, and then the Padres, who actually aren't a playoff contender now, but are becoming a playoff contender. And
where's Charlie Finley when you need him, man? Where are the A's?
Exactly. So, and that's all in a row until they get to the National. So 8 teams in a row that are all better, more talent than them, playoff contenders until they play the Nationals. So that's why it was assumed. And whenever we brought people on, they said, yeah, the second half is going to be interesting. Geffner talked about it.
Yeah.
Because they play a ridiculous level of competition, and they did the opposite. The first half, they played all the scrubbies. This half, they play all the playoff contenders.
Well, it also comes at a time where they're falling apart.
Yes.
Where they're not getting anything out of their starting pitching rotation. Luzardo, he's sort of been an up and down factor, but I notice he rarely gets out of the 5th inning in his starts. Is that by design on the part of, the skipper there? Or last time he did give up some hits and runs, but even when he was somewhat on, I'm watching him lift him in the 5th inning, like he's gone like 4 2/3. He's already out of the game. The bullpen, as you say, falling apart a little bit. Hitters not coming through. And that is a deadly combination. You talk about, he had everything. He had Oxycontin, he had fentanyl, he had Xanax, he had, mushrooms. Everything was in his system. It's a deadly formula, is it not? When nothing is working. So we'll see. Not many people really, gave the Marlins much of a chance of doing anything this year anyway. So we've had a decent ride with them all the way into August, but a shame to see them flailing after what appeared to be a series of, I don't know if you would call them brilliant moves, but maneuvers by Kim Eng that you thought were very promising. We've been screaming for this for how long, Louis? Where at the trade deadline, the Marlins would say, hey, never mind, we're not giving away all of our star players, which isn't working for the Mets either. I mean, they haven't won a game since the trade deadline, the New York Mets. Not that you would expect that since they gave away like half of their team. But, yeah, I mean, you would have thought this would have bolstered their chances, and instead they're like 3-7 in their last 10 games. And seem to be in a nosedive, Lubie, a nosedive. Just like, in The Aviator when, DiCaprio is Howard Hughes. He's flying that plane into the trees there. It looks like he's taking off from North Perry Airport. And you're thinking, oh, my God. Which one of these 5 houses is this, plane going to have one wing sticking out of the roof there? It's unbelievable. Every day on the news, right? North Perry Airport, another plane goes down. I mean, it's sad. I'm telling you, my friend, I used to play basketball every night with a guy named Al Fine, and he had a house that was like maybe 2 houses off where the airport is. I mean, it wasn't so close that because there was a gap between the airport itself and the next street. And, he was on that same block, though. And literally every night we used to sit in the guy's house. We'd be shooting a breeze after playing ball. And, you'd think, is this the one that's coming through the roof? And it was not uncommon, which is, talk about a place that needs to check into its safety measures. That would be, I would imagine there are more crashes at that airport than any other in the world. Would you think that that's a fair statement? Even those planes that were flying the, Russian hockey teams around, where the Wright brothers wouldn't even step on. Hey, Orville, you want to fly this piece of shit? No, and they got like Yarmir Yager, flying around on some of these planes. It's crazy. All right, so we're dead in the water, huh? Is that what you're saying, Louie? Dead? So. Niedermeyer, dead. Wormer, dead.
I mean, the other team sucking has allowed them to hang around, but they're now 3 back of the Giants, who they were leading. They're 3 back of the Phillies, who they were leading. These are teams that have much more talent top to bottom. I think look, even for the shitty schedule they had, they were supposed to be sucky themselves. So it's nice that they were able to take out the sucky teams. They're probably going to win 75 to 80 games. So it'll be a success in that regard. But for how they started, it'll be a failure. So we'll see. Look, these trades they made weren't all for this year. They're guys that they're going to retain control for the next year to 2 years, if not longer. You'll get Mayer back, their young stud. You may see Six Toe. He's supposedly still lingering in the minors.
Oh, yeah. Is he still alive? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like maybe you figure
this guy Perez. I mean, he figures to be
they'll get Perez back full time, which that ended their season. I mean, once they did that, they've literally been a disaster since that move. And I get what they're doing, and they're bringing him back. That's what's funny. They're bringing him back this week. Okay, so what the fuck was the point of that? Like, they have been a total disaster. They went from having a strong 5-man rotation to having a 4-man rotation, and throwing in a bullpen that wasn't good as starter. It ended their season once they made that move, and it was pretty clear.
Well, I mean, maybe it's an indicator that the old cliche is true, that across 162 games, the truth eventually will be told. And that was that the team just wasn't that great.
Yes.
And even if they were, overachieving a little bit in the first half of the season, eventually things were going to balance out. And unfortunately, that's what's happened. In spite of the fact that, we applauded these moves by the general manager. We thought they were pretty solid considering what they had to work with. And the last thing that this team's, philosophy would have dictated would have been trading prospects for older players that maybe had a year or two of shelf life left with the team. So, although Berger's a relatively young guy.
Bell's not an old fart. I mean, Bell's 30. I'm not mad at the moves. If you notice, I haven't slammed Kim Eng. I haven't.
You can. I mean, look, everybody was saying, "Hey, this looks great." So
well, they're not all 1-run games. They lost 6-0 yesterday. It's not. That's the problem. Is it ain't 1-run games, Andy, man. Like, they're getting demolished.
No, they're getting trounced. I mean,
the first half
they're not even in these games. People are leaving in the 6th inning.
Like, that's it. It wasn't that, they won the 1-run games, is going to reverse it. No. They won 1-run games that when they play good teams, they're going to be down by 5. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what you're seeing is then the schedule did matter because
It looked like a home run derby yesterday, Louie.
yes, and that's what it is every game.
I was waiting for what was it, Mark Scott to start going. So, Mick, what's it like back there on the farm? As Willie Mays is hitting another 3 home runs at the top of the 7th there at Wrigley Field in L.A. Unbelievable. All right, we're going to come back with more. We have a lot more to discuss here on the program. Zach goes to the Hall of Fame. Zach Thomas. I didn't get to see his speech. I saw excerpts from it. Seemed like it was very, very well supported by the Miami contingent there. We often talk about how the Miami Hurricanes, we were talking about that with Tony earlier last week anyway, and it was true that one of the reasons that they were always shunned for these big bowl games when the invitation system was in place and Notre Dame would get the invite to one of the big bowls in August. And everybody's like, oh, wow, look at that. What a surprise. Somebody wants Notre Dame to come because they bring 500,000 drinking, partying Irishmen with them, right? I mean, yeah. Whereas the Hurricanes, I have never felt so outnumbered, Lubie. I mean, it would have been Custer all over again when we were in New Orleans for that Sugar Bowl game against Alabama, the Gene Stallings game.
Oh God,
where Lamar Thomas, who was it? George Teal was the guy that
George
picked off
Teague,
that pass. Teague, yeah.
Teague.
George Teague was a guy, and it ripped your heart out. You were expecting big things from the Hurricanes. Dennis Erickson's son gets punched on the way down the stairs. Alabama outnumbered the Miami fans there. I would have to say it was along the ratio of like 20-1. Libby.
Oh, geez, not even 10. I was going to say 10-1, 20-1.
Yeah, big fat guys eating oysters all over Bourbon Street. Fat women from Tuscaloosa eating oysters all over Bourbon Street. Well, they were eating everything, po' boys and the whole thing. It almost looked like an edition of Mike Mayo's Lunchbox when we get Mike going. He had a picture of that pork sandwich, though, where it looked like he had picked all the pork out, no? Did you see that one?
That seems like something Mayo would do, even though he raves about everything in the sandwich.
No, but I mean, he had just picked it out and like eating it with his hands before he bit into the sandwich. All right, we're coming back with more. Lots to discuss here on the program. Zach goes to the Hall of Fame. That was kind of cool. Who doesn't root for Zach Thomas? Is there anybody out there? Because you may as well just stop watching the show at that point. Whoever doesn't enjoy Zach Thomas and the fact that he got into the Hall of Fame, kind of crazy. Joe Klecko had to wait 35 years to get in there. What are you getting?
He actually get in. That's veterans, yeah, because they were not letting him in. Even though anyone who watched him will tell you he was a Hall of Famer.
I mean, a dominant player, no question. Played long enough, did he not, Joe Klecko?
I know. I think it's
part of a still famous pass rush. I mean, right up there with the Doomsday Defense, Purple People Eaters, the New York Sack Exchange, legendary, Lubie, in football lore. If you're legendary, should you not automatically get Hall of Fame consideration? Shouldn't Minnie Minoso be in the Baseball Hall of Fame? No? No, if you're part of the sports legend, which the New York Sack Exchange was. Is Gastineau in the Hall of Fame? Mark Gastineau? No?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Who would you say was the better player, Gastineau or Klecko?
I don't know that era at all. I have no idea. They seem to say Gastineau for years.
Gastineau had all the flash because he did the sack dance. Klecko was an animal in the middle there. But extremely effective. I do not begrudge Joe Klecko getting into the Hall of Fame. Do you?
No. Look, I mean, it's guys that I didn't watch their era at all, and I know well, so there must be a reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because they, as I said, were part of the game's legend at this point. Imagine Dan Marino. How many more? What was Marino going against these guys, or was that? What are we talking about? 80s?
It was 80s. Yeah, Marino was young, but Marino played against him.
Yeah.
He's not a Hall of Famer, Gastineau.
No. Okay. Should he be?
It was a 4 or 5 year run, and they're weird about giving. Even though, see, that's my thing. I don't know. He won a Defensive Player of the Year. He went to multiple Pro Bowls. He was an All Pro 1 year. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Gastineau and Klecko, but I guess Klecko got in. Gastineau, from what I'm seeing, did not get in.
Okay. And is unlikely then, because there's not a whole lot of steam to get Mark Gastineau into the Hall of Fame, is there? Should be. He's more likely to make the Boxing Hall of Fame after that bout he had at the War Memorial with Tim Doc Anderson. I don't know if you were. No, you were too young for that, right?
I was young for all this.
That was great. There was like 3 or 4 shows there in a short period of time. One of which, I guess 2 of them featured Mickey Rourke as a professional boxer. Now, where do you find a stiff that is bad enough to lose to Mickey Rourke?
And they lost, actually, yeah.
I think he fought an uninspiring draw when I saw him there. We couldn't wait for the guy to get into the ring, though. Gastineau and Tim Doc Anderson, of course, that I probably shouldn't use this word, but it actually, caused, I don't want to say triggered, a tragic event because Doc Anderson became so enraged that he had to throw this fight to Mark Gastineau that he eventually shot his manager.
Oh, jeez.
And, I think remains in, some Florida prison today as a result of that. Ugliness, right? All over a fixed fight, Lubie. Because, you were watching Gastineau box, and, you know who else fought there at the War Memorial as a professional boxer? Alonzo Highsmith.
Oh, God.
Yeah, became a professional boxer for a while. All this happening at the Fort Lauderdale War Memorial, where, well, what is it now? A roller skating rink? What is the War Memorial?
Oh, it's still there. They have stuff.
Imagine that was our big arena
I know.
at one time.
I know.
This was it. Okay, yeah, we're going to the War Memorial tonight. What war is it a memorial to? Do we know? Or is it all wars?
I think all wars. I don't know.
Is it even still standing? I drove by there a
It's
couple
there,
of times
yeah,
on my
I
way
drive
back
past
from the
We
Mayo
don't
Lunchbox
know.
shows.
Yeah,
It's still there? Yeah.
there. Yeah, they have events. I don't know, MMA and stuff like that. They hold a lot of that stuff.
Oh,
there.
yeah, they do. They have MMA events at the War
Oh,
Memorial.
yeah, I've been to MMA when Howard Davis, a couple with Carla and Howard.
Oh, that's right. They were promoting fights there. You're right.
Yeah, I went to a few. Yeah. And I think they still do stuff there. Yeah.
Very exciting times, man. I mean, there was a buzz around town, Gastineau stepping into the ring there, but he didn't step into the Hall of Fame in professional football. All right, we're coming back with more. Do I bother going into... I don't know, Lubie. I'm not sharing your same enthusiasm for this year's Miami Dolphin team for some reason.
I'm aware.
Why is that? I mean, try to convince me otherwise, please.
No, I don't know. Look, they've let us down. It's why Segredo is still weird. And Segredo is Mr.
Segredo has changed a little bit, though. He's not as positive as he was about local teams.
Yes, become more bitter. And I guess when you defend them for decades and they let you down over and over again, eventually it wears at your enamel. I'm not holding their pass against them. I'm looking at the talent they have right now compared to the other talent. The only one that I hold it against them is Tua, and it's because it's not a fluke.
Is there a jinx in play? That would be the bigger question.
I don't know about a jinx.
Is it the curse of Joe Philbin?
There you go.
What could it be? I was thinking today, I mean, does Stephen Ross sit in on these interviews? Do you think he's paying attention? Because imagine the contrast between interviewing Joe Philbin and Mike McDaniel, right? Where Philbin said nothing, essentially. He would just sit there and kind of had a vapid look on his face, seemed like all the time. And somebody would say, hey, how do you feel about today's loss? And he would go, well, I really want to congratulate the other team. I think they played well. All right, guys, they'll come around. Which, I don't know, is that like the worst approach?
Yes. No
Yeah,
accountability.
it defies everything that the NFL philosophies stand for, does it not?
100%. I want accountability. I want you to respect the other team, but it has nothing to do with them. It's all about you and your team.
There's something to be said for that, because I'm buying some of this rhetoric about Aaron Boone now and his lack of calling on players for accountability, including your favorite, Giancarlo Stanton, who, the other day, I guess he got thrown out at the plate. He was like jogging around third base because he, was afraid if he runs, any faster than somebody that you would find in a sprint at Century Village from the car to the, to the house there with a bunch of groceries, they're worried that he's going to tear his hamstrings, right? But then Stanton has an unfortunately nasty habit of staring, thinking he's hit a home run. It's one of those rocket line drives, and it bonks off the wall, and he ends up at first base, barely beating the throw to first. And Boone will defend the fact that he doesn't run all the time. And, so is there something to be said for that? I mean, would he not be better off just saying, hey, listen, if this putz isn't going to run the bases, then, why do we have him out there? You're never going to hear that from Aaron Boone. Does that hurt the Yankees' chances of having any success? A lot of people say yes to that, Lubie. That Boone just refuses to make his players accountable for their bonehead mistakes.
Well, it doesn't help. I mean, what is your job? Like, look, a baseball manager is probably the least important coach of it. Maybe hockey. I don't know what hockey coaches really do, but
I don't know how hockey coaches organize anything. How is the game as organized, as chaotic as it is,
I just don't know what
where
they.
everybody knows when to come off the bench and all of that? I mean, is there somebody that's actually tapping guys and saying, "Okay, Kachuk, get in there"?
I guess I don't know. I know football and basketball. Look, again, talent matters, but I think the coaches do have an imprint on the game. I know we've seen really good coaches do more with less. Baseball, I don't know. Baseball, there's really not much you're doing, and hockey, I don't know how much more it is.
I believe certain baseball managers have better instincts than others.
The one thing, yes, and that's it. The one thing they do is instincts on a late substitution, understanding when to keep a guy in versus taking him out, and on how to motivate. That's the one thing coaches do across all sports is motivating guys.
Yeah.
Or getting on their ass. If you're just being so laissez-faire that you're letting guys just walk all over you. Look, we know in this era the yelling and the screaming doesn't really work. These guys are making hundreds of millions. Fine. But you're still supposed to be the skipper. You're still supposed to be the guy in charge, and they're still supposed to respect you in some way. From what I've heard from anyone covering the Yankees or Yankee fans, they don't respect that guy on any level, and it's pretty fucking clear. Like,
what would they respect anybody? That would be the question, I guess.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
You have to find the guy. It ain't Boone. I mean, the Boone thing is so weird that he's been able to linger. I never understood why they hired him because he was in the ESPN booth. I never get that, like bringing the guy out of the booth. That's why I can't stand Dion. Like, I'm a Knoll. I like Dion as a Knoll, but like these people who are like Boone, they offered him the job. That's not him. But Dion's whole thing was FSU should give me a head coaching job because I'm working at NFL Network. It's like, what? Like, dude, you've never coached ever. You want to now coach a top flight Power 5? Dude, all these guys Chad Brown was doing these camps just to hopefully get like an assistant coordinator job, like an assistant position coach job. And you want to be the head coach? Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I don't give a shit how great you are when you play. That has nothing to do with it. Coaches, great players usually suck as coaches. So, like, to me, just bringing a guy from the fucking booth and making him the head coach, it's like, what? Like, I never got the Boone hire at all. And then he sucked from almost day one. Like, I don't know.
I mean, no one has been the subject of more derision. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of tough criticism if you're managing the Yankees and the team's not doing well. That's understandable. They could dig up Billy Martin, and if he was managing the team this year and they had the same results, people would be saying it's time to fire Billy again, George. But Boone seems to be the subject of tremendous ridicule and suspicion that he has no clue what he's doing. And yet, that being said, I mean, part of it might be, always every time you see anything about a Boone statement after a bonehead play or some tragic Yankee loss, he's always, saying, "Oh, well, that's all right." So I don't know. I mean, privately, is he seething and chewing these players out? And this is just the front that he puts on for the public?
It doesn't seem to be the case. That's not what we seem to. That's not what we hear.
And the Jets are going nowhere this year, speaking of New York, because Aaron Rodgers threw a pick in the 2-minute drill yesterday on the final play of practice. So he's obviously lost it. Sauce Gardner has, I think, 11 interceptions in practice, all off of Rodgers. He's partying anyway. He doesn't care, man. Here you go, Sauce. Here's another one. There's no element of panic there, though. What if this is reality? What if this is as good as it gets, the old Jack Nicholson film, huh?
I think it's in the middle somewhere. I don't think he's as bad as he's been at times in camp, and I don't think he's as good as the Jets faithful think he's going to be. I think it's in the middle somewhere.
Oh, I would think it's, relatively all Iverson time with him, right? Practice.
Yeah, he isn't.
What are you worried about? Practice. It's not a game. All right, we're coming back with more. Brett Tessler, the agent of the Stars, is going to join us. You have NFL action coming up again this week. On Thursday night, the Texans going against the Patriots. The Texans 1.5 point favorites over the Patriots on the road, Lubie. The Houston Texans, based on what? Stroud is the quarterback there, right? C.J. Stroud, didn't they get him at the number 2 pick? Texans?
Yes, Texans is Stroud. Panthers is Bryce Young.
Okay. Yes. All right, so what, is he going to play a lot? Put him out there?
I mean, look, when they're young, they'll probably see the field a little bit.
Doesn't he need to? I mean, if he's going to start in a regular season in the NFL, would he not need at least some piece of the 3 games in the preseason.
Regardless
Regardless of the possibility of injury. I mean, if he's not going to be ready to play in week number 1 at that level, which you would imagine is even a step faster than what you see in the preseason, then the likelihood is he would get crushed, being totally unprepared to go out there and face a regular season NFL pass rush. What do you think?
As a young dude, he's going to see some time in the preseason. He's not going to see the time he would have seen years ago. But he probably would have played the whole game a few years ago, right? Yeah, we're going all the way with Strzok. Yes.
All right, so you have that. You have the Seahawks and the Vikings.
There you go.
So it seems to be a relatively meaningless game. I don't know what is going to be established there. It would be of some interest, to see these rookies. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud and who was the kid from Florida, Richardson?
Anthony Richardson with the Colts, yeah.
And he's already been announced as the starter, is he not? Stroud has. No, Young. That was the one.
I think all 3 are going to start. Those are 3 teams that have nothing. Like they don't have any. Like the Colts don't have anything. They didn't sign an old fart this time around. Like I think he's the dude. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I have concerns about all 3 of them. I think Stroud has the best chance to be good in the pros. Young's size scares the living shit. Like Tua's like a giant compared to Young.
Yes.
Like he is.
Did Tua get bigger, by the way? I mean, did he bulk himself up a little bit?
Yeah, he's been working, and it's not fat. They try to make it that it's fat. No, he's like Jack now. He's put on a ton of size. They're hoping that helps him stay healthy. He's done a lot with nutrition, and then the jiu-jitsu bullshit, where hopefully he doesn't keep knocking his.
But what if he just, is being chased down by some, foam and fire-breathing, defensive lineman? And he just gives him a karate chop to the neck.
That'd be great.
Wouldn't that be great? Is that jiu-jitsu? I mean, just
even if it's illegal, I still would love to see it.
Wouldn't that be great? Probably get away with it too in the NFL. They'll call the guy for holding. All right, we're coming back with more. We've been schlubbering here for a while, and this is from my buddy, my friend, a good friend, the Mighty Melendez from many years ago. Now watches daily, Lubie. He's a big fan of yours. Yeah, and as I recall, he was a giant Notre Dame fan.
Okay,
which was odd because we were right there in USC Trojan country. But I believe he was a big fan of Notre Dame, and I'm wondering if he's going to go ahead and lay the 20 now against Navy, or do we go ahead and it's so troubling watching Navy football, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those teams. It's un-American to say this, isn't it? But I can't stand watching the Armed Forces football teams. Can you?
I think
the most boring fucking teams on the planet. As much as I love this country and I respect the fact that they're, service people that are going out there trying to protect our freedoms. That's great. Salute you on all of that. But you play like fucking boring football, no? Army, Navy, Air Force. Does Air Force go a little Eric Coriel on that?
Yeah. Air Force throws it around. I don't know what the Army does, but I know Navy does that bullshit triple option crap that.
Oh, Christ.
Forever. That's the stupidest football, and it only works because it's so stupid that no one plays.
Georgia Tech and Navy should be banned from the game.
Well, Georgia Tech changed it. They don't do that anymore. But
oh, my God. It was so disgusting. You would tune in on a Saturday going, no, don't make me watch this. Why don't they just throw Jim Thorpe out there to run a football, huh? While you're at it, the triple option, worst play in football, is it not? If you're just going to watch it over and over and over
again. It's boring. It's just eventually.
The quarterback's never going to throw the ball. And if he does, it's going to look like Josh Heupel did in that championship game when he couldn't throw the ball 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. What was that? That was a Super Bowl, wasn't it? Was Josh Heupel in a Super Bowl, or was that the championship game?
College at Oklahoma versus FSU.
Yeah. No, he had no arm whatsoever.
Yeah, he sucked.
No, considered to be like the genius offensive mind of all time, right?
He's a really good college offensive mind, yes.
So he got it. But there you go. There's an example of what you were theorizing earlier, Lubie, that, the great players don't necessarily make the best coaches.
They usually don't.
But Scribinis, sometimes they really understand the game, even though they couldn't quite do it themselves. All right, so I don't know. The Mighty Melendez, I would imagine, would be willing to lay the 20 with Notre Dame. This game's being played in Ireland in front of those pasty-looking Scribinis that line the course for the Open, the British Open, which, until the last couple of days was a disaster this year, right? Sunny, mild, beautiful temperatures. Chicks are in bikinis on the, on the fairways. And you're thinking, what am I watching here? Beach volleyball? This is supposed to be the British Open, for God's sake. Unbelievable. All right, Notre Dame, and that's going to kick off August 26th. So we still have a few weeks for college football, Libby.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
I mean,
2 weeks now.
Is there anything that we should know? I mean, aside from the fact that what does Georgia do it again?
No,
Is there
I
a
don't
team
know.
out there that we could, I mean, somebody has to be able to beat these guys. No,
I mean, there's a few. We'll see. They are going to the new quarterback well, so that's usually when these teams, I wouldn't say struggle. Like they'll find their way probably in the playoffs, but they struggle at the gate, so they're able to get snuck up on. I don't know. We'll see. Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama all have new quarterbacks, so we'll see those three.
I'm hoping, naturally that Alabama struggles mightily and maybe he's sub 500 and Nick finally calls it a career.
I won't go that.
That would make my season.
They may lose 2 games.
You know what? I would miss him. I would miss the whining and the fetching. Doesn't he have all of the symptoms and all of the indications that he, in reality, in some former life, was a neurotic Jewish person? The fetching. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Oh, my God, this name, image, and likeness is going to kill us all, right? Meanwhile, he's got a satchel full of cash under the table. He's about to get to some 6'7", 400-pound offensive lineman who runs a 4.3 40.
I just love these fan bases really think that their coaches have all this charisma. Like Florida State just pulled a kid who was a top 10 kid in the country. He's from like the backyard of Georgia.
Yeah.
He's been to Georgia like 16 times, but he grew up an FSU fan. His dream was to play at FSU, and FSU is now good again. They're not great. I don't know if we're back. I'm not using terms like that, but they're good again. They're a top 10 team, a Heisman candidate, all the whatever.
They were impressive at times last year.
Well, they didn't beat anyone ranked, but they didn't get blown out either. Okay,
so, and they were exciting. I mean, they had an exciting offense.
Exciting. They returned like 90% of their starters, which in this day and age, no one does because of their NIL money. They actually have a nice NIL collective, Battles End. So it's his dream school. They're good, and they came with a lot of money. I'm not saying they didn't, but I don't get like all these Georgia fans. I love it. They're like FSU bottom. I'm like, yes. What do you think? What do you like? You really think Kirby Smart and Nick Saban are like fucking that charismatic? You really think that these kids are like, fuck your millions, I'm going to Georgia? Like, come on. Like, they were doing it before. They just are pissed that they're not the only ones anymore. Like, it's so funny when they.
I mean, it's got to be straight out of Jerry Maguire. All of this stuff.
100%.
Yeah. No, it's great. So yeah, the sanctimonious one, Nick Saban. I'm naturally rooting for Alabama to lose every game, and let's hope they have nothing but quarterback problems there. And that Nick is agony. Nobody looks better in terms of depicting agony than Nick Saban.
No, he's the best.
Even when he's winning like 48-7.
100%. He hates. No, they say he hates.
He looks like he just has the worst case of hemorrhoids that you've ever experienced. Which have you ever had a hemorrhoid, Louie?
Oh, thank God, no.
Yeah, I mean, when I was waiting tables, you're on your feet a lot, and you would get into a situation where maybe you were working a couple of doubles or whatever, and next thing you know, there it is. You're like, holy shit, what's that? Talk about a pain in the ass. All right, we're coming back with more hemorrhoids and soccer. They're the two topics of the day here that have really caught on. No, I'm convinced too, and we should start. Maybe we could make a score this way, Lubie. We should try to find the internal memo. It must exist somewhere among MLS franchises that has alerted everybody that under no circumstance are you allowed to have anybody within 20 yards of Messi. And when he's around the goal, don't even attempt to play any type of defense against him. Let him do whatever he wants right in front of the goalie, okay? He could throw a hatchet into the goalie's chest and then kick the ball, and we're not going to do anything about it. Nothing, because we want this guy to score every night at least a couple of goals. Shouldn't he have like 5 goals a night the way they're defending him? Where is this internal memo that says you cannot do anything? Please, if you touch this man, you are finished.
They're not.
You'll be lucky to get a job in Kazakhstan, kicking a football for a living.
They're not defending exactly that way. That's the problem. He's actually getting defended the last few games.
No,
and I don't want to say they struggled. They've scored okay, but their defense is horrendous, and their offense does not really sustain an attack. Like I watched
Listen to you, man. Seamus McLubitz
You're
again.
watching their games, and like these other teams will live in their end because I watch enough hockey to now I can sort of surmise what the fuck's going on with
You
soccer.
can figure out hockey fairly quickly, actually.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because of the hockey, it sort of set me up for the soccer where like you can see the one team. I never understood that. We've said that. They're dominating, and it's 0-0. It's like it's 0-0, guys. Like I don't give a shit if they're dominating. It's 0-0.
Yeah, they're dominating because it's a stupid-ass game where you can't score even though the net is the size of the Grand Canyon.
But when
How do you miss that? I mean, by the way, when you're standing 3 feet in front of it.
I hate when they do that. But
Megan Rapinoe, I mean, what the hell was that?
When you're watching these games, the other team is literally owning, maybe not time of possession, but they're like getting much better chances than Inter Miami. And eventually it leads to goals. And that's what's happened the last few games. They've found a way to win these games, but they're playing the middle of the road to the bottom of the MLS.
Okay. So they're bottom level scum is what they're playing against.
Yes.
And Messi's having a field day, man. I mean, it looks great. Although I believe like our friend Jim Sarney could score in some of these goals the way he's being defended. Seems like every time I see him, he's wide open in front of the net with nobody within 20 yards of him. And even if he misses the first 2 attempts, he still has a third chance on a rebound. It's like he's Phil Esposito in there. All right. That was one of the great, lines ever in sport, right? Jesus saves and Esposito knocks in the rebound.
That's great.
Because that was his thing. It looks like that's what Messi is doing. All right, we're coming back with more here. Soccer, not exactly our forte, but you have given a brilliant dissertation here, Mike Lubitz. Breaking down the strategies of this stupid-ass game where, they kick the ball here and they kick the ball there. Somebody gets tripped up. It goes back to midfield, comes back the other way. Somebody heads it this way. They get it back to the goaltender, and she goes ahead and rolls it to the side. And you're thinking, wow. That was some brilliant stuff. These coaches always look. I mean, you talk about coaches that look like they have indigestion. Soccer coaches, are they ever happy?
No.
They're miserable on the sidelines. It doesn't matter what's going on. They could be up 4-0, and they just look like they're miserable. It's pretty insane. And I don't know, what are the qualifications to be a soccer coach? It seems like all of them blow. Is there a soccer coach that everybody looks at and goes, oh, man, you got this guy. It's like having Belichick with Brady.
No idea.
No,
I can't even venture. I guess I don't know. Anywhere near enough soccer to grade coaches. No clue. I can't even name any of the coaches.
What do they do? What exactly? You talk about a coach and you don't know what they do.
No idea.
What about the soccer coach? What do they do? I guess they have to control substitution, starting lineup. Do they dictate strategy? Is there any strategy, Lubie?
Soccer people will tell you there is. I don't see. I don't. Okay. Sure. Anyway,
everybody's on. They're down on this U.S. women's national team. I mean, they have, and that was one of the few times that you did see. I don't know. Was the majority of sentiment negative about that club?
I mean, I rooted for them, but I once they lost in the pathetic way they lost. Is it a woman? Like, why was there all these people saying, thank you for all you did, and what a great run, and why lie to them? Like in every,
I'm telling you, it's very similar. There's a parallel there to the MAGA Republican movement.
I don't get it.
This women's soccer movement in the United States of America.
It's both ways. Like the right people were just livid. Ha ha, they lost. It's like, okay, you're American. But the other ones.
Did you see DeSantis, man? He was ready to go. He almost said it. He said, I'm going to Disney World. Then he realized he's probably not welcome there. Asshole.
Just the other people going, what a great effort, and what you've done. And I'm like, what you've done? I'm like, they sucked. I'm like, they were fucking the favorite.
Oh, that was a disaster. Every game pretty much was a disappointment.
Stage.
They couldn't even cover against Vietnam, for God's sake.
They didn't score a goal. They didn't score a goal for Sweden, who's not one of the top 4 favorites. It's like,
no.
Why are
the Swedish girls would have been very polite about it and said, they probably would have defended them like Messi, They had about 100 chances, though. I'm telling you, I mean, that girl didn't look anything like the Gump, but that Swedish goalie was like a young Gump Worsley in there, was she not?
But it was every goaltender. Every goalie looked like.
Imagine your goalie looks like Gump Worsley. I mean, you're on a women's soccer team. That would really be something. Too short. To cover that much net. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. We've been trying to get to this break here for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's 30 minutes. I'm trying to get to the break.
Wow, nice. Is that music still, sort of...
It's running.
Filtering through the background. It's a peel yourself off the mat Monday, so clearly we're doing that. I mean, imagine the guy comes over to me and says, "Look, I had the exacta 3 times." Horse is on the ground, about to get euthanized there. The jockey went flying over the top. Yes, it's a tragedy there, but don't show me you're losing tickets. I mean, have some sensitivity about the game, huh?
You would think.
It's like when they were carrying Johnny Owen out of the Olympic Auditorium ring there to subsequently pass away like a week later after it was in a complete mismatch against the great Lupe Pintor. And they're carrying a guy out on a stretcher, Lubie. Imagine, and you talk about man's inhumanity to man. And there was a trainer who was also a manager that was in charge of a lot of these British boxers they were bringing over, named Mickey Duff. He was a big promoter from England. So Duff is holding one end of the stretcher that they're carrying this kid out of the ring, and somebody picks his pocket. Can you believe that, Lubie? True story. They picked his pocket while he was carrying a stretcher of a fighter who was eventually going to die. That's man's inhumanity to man, Lubie. It's unbelievable, the total insensitivity. And, showing me the losing tickets on the Maple Leaf Mill. I mean, you would expect that of somebody like Larry the Leaper.
Pretty much, yes.
Right? To be going, can you believe it? The horse had to fucking fall down. And you're like, come on, Leaper. Have a little respect. This is, this is the business we have chosen. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
I didn't mean to single out the Leaper, but you could imagine him doing that, right? All right, it's 8:21.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Pleasures of this job. The simple pleasures of this job. The way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field. The way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tessler.
Welcome back to the show. Hey, peel yourself off the mat Monday here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubie. It's always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman to the program. We've been doing it a long time, and gives us great insight into the inner machinations and workings of the National Football League and a lot of other stuff as well. We welcome to the show the agent to the stars, Mr. Brett Tessler. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, guys. Good to be with you.
Good morning, Tessler.
All right, I don't know if you caught any of this. The Hall of Fame ceremonies, naturally there was an interest there, and I didn't watch the actual ceremony itself, but I saw some highlights of the Zach Thomas induction speech and some of the other activities the local channels had picked up, and it looked great. But do you have any inside information, with your connections in the NFL? Did they hire a new sculptor to put together the bronze of the inductees? Because Zach actually looked like Zach. And that was not traditional, right? They would unveil like the bronze, the statue of the bust of some inductee. And, they would make like Bill Parcells look like Tiny Tim. And you're thinking, what did they switch the busts? But he really looked. I mean, that bust was dead on Zach Thomas. I mean, a dead ringer for what he looks like. And did they get a new sculptor there? I mean, have you got any insight into that?
I don't know about that, but I agree with what Zach said, which was whoever sculpted it, it was an easy job for him. All you need is a square head with no neck, and that's pretty much that's pretty much Zach. But truthfully, his induction in the Hall of Fame for me personally is probably the most meaningful. And I'm fortunate that, being in my position, I've gone to the Hall of Fame a few times. I've been able to bring the family there, and, we get the royal treatment and everything, but it's really a magical place. I mean, if you're a lover of pro football, and I've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, I've been to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. And there's just something about the Pro Football Hall of Fame that just, same thing with Cooperstown. Like it just has such an amazing atmosphere. You just feel such a vibe. You feel such history. It's impossible to really describe if you truly love the game. But for me, to see Zach get inducted is very significant because Zach and I both started our careers at the same time. He was never a client of mine, but he's somebody who I got to know because I represented a player who was in that draft with him, Mike Allstott, who came into Tampa Bay at that time. So him and Zach got to know each other a little bit, and I got to know Zach throughout the years. And one thing about Zach, of every player, celebrity, musician, actor, anybody who I've gotten to know, over the last, 25 years of being in this business, Zach is simply the most remarkable, down-to-earth person that anybody's ever going to meet. I mean, I couldn't imagine a fan approaching him and walking away with anything bad to say. And the most amazing thing about that guy, he has a memory like you've never seen. I mean, Deef, your memory's amazing, and you'll occasionally bring things up just randomly when you and I are talking here that maybe we discussed 10 years ago. And it's so impressive that, you're able to remember it. But I mean, Zach remembers people from, 10, 15 years. It's just, he's amazing like that. He's just a great guy. And to think that, our careers both started at the same time. And now 25 years later, I'm seeing him get inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's really a neat thing. And, he truly is a special guy. I mean, the ultimate overachiever, a guy who legitimately had zero business ever making it in this league. Forget about, being a Hall of Famer, becoming a Hall of Famer. This is a guy that, on paper would have a difficult time even making a roster as a practice squad guy. Not big, not super fast, but possibly one of the top 5 smartest players in the history of this sport. And I represented guys who were in all-star games with him in college, like the Hula Bowl. And they just said, watching him react on defense, his instinct was cat-like, like just intercepting passes, just anticipating things way earlier than anybody else could. So just an amazing guy. I know I just spoke a long time here, but I just have so much to say about him just because, again, having the privilege as a young agent in watching him in his early years with the Dolphins, it's just mind-blowing what that guy was able to accomplish. He's truly an inspiration to everyone.
Oh, it's great. And the relationship with Jimmy Johnson, the fact that Jimmy was a presenter, was significant. He's your type of guy, a guy that was nobody, as you said. 5th-round draft pick, not exactly the kind of stuff that's going to be center stage when they arrive at training camp. Jimmy, didn't Larry Izzo come in that same year, and Jimmy kind of singled him out right away and said, this guy's already made the team. And that was a big thing, because Jimmy was great like that in terms of his psychological motivational techniques, saying, okay, here's this. What's that? Did we lose Brett Tessler there?
Defo, I'm here.
There you are. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to say they came in the same year, Zach and Larry Izzo, and I remember Jimmy shaking it up by saying, Izzo's the one guy that's already made this team. And Zach, as a 5th-round pick, though, like you said, an unlikely suspect to even make the squad, much less. I guess you're keeping your 5th-round pick, for as long as you can to take a look at him. But you wouldn't have necessarily foreseen this, and yet Johnson, saw something in him that fit the style of everything that he liked to do as a coach, and he couldn't have been any better. Supposedly, like was so in depth and obsessive, I guess, about film study that helped him with what you said was these instinctive first moves that he made that made up for whatever he lacked physically compared to other Hall of Fame linebackers.
When it comes to football IQ, Zach Thomas is like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, all wrapped into. I mean, the guy was truly a savant.
Yeah,
hear all the time about so and so is a smart player or dedicated to film. I truly don't know. And again, this sounds like tremendous exaggeration. It sounds like speaking in superlatives, but I'm telling you the truth. I don't know that in the history of this sport there's legitimately ever been a smarter linebacker or smarter football player than Zach Thomas. And really, that is the entire key to his success because, again, I think he's one of the smallest linebackers ever to make it. And again, the fact that he was even a 5th-round pick is a miracle and truly a testament to, again, just how absolutely tough and smart and hardworking this guy was. As you mentioned, he did come in with Larry Izzo. They came in the same year. I believe Izzo was an undrafted guy out of Rice. And, one of the all-time great stories, as you mentioned, was right at the beginning of training camp when it was apparent that Larry Izzo was just going to be an incredible special teams player just because that guy was just a total lunatic and just as tough and scrappy as they come. That right at the beginning of camp, Jimmy Johnson said in the meeting room, there's only 2 people who've made this team, Dan Marino and Larry Izzo. And so if that doesn't send a message to the team that, hey, anybody has a chance here if they're willing to work hard enough and, be tough enough and, willing to do whatever it takes to help the team. So that's a great story. And as far as the all-time great nicknames in the history of this sport, early on when Zach and Izzo came in together, they actually roomed together. And the nickname for both of them was Fred and Barney.
Yeah.
Zach obviously looked like Fred Flintstone and
very much.
And Larry Izzo looked like Barney Rubble. So they were definitely a couple of characters. And again, it made watching those teams, as somebody who grew up down here as a South Florida sports fan, it just made it so much fun to watch. And then of course, I ended up getting another client here and a couple of years being in the business and Trent Gamble. And, he was teammates with Zach and Izzo and, Scott McGarrahan, another one of my clients was also here. Another one of those kind of guys. He was sort of a safety, top special teams guy. And so the stories you would hear about Zach and Izzo were just legendary. The value that those guys brought on the field is just a small part of the overall value they brought into the locker room because they treated everybody well. Everybody loved them. Everybody respected them. And most importantly, everybody basically had to step their effort up because when you've got guys that are working that hard, you have no choice but to do it yourself.
Yeah. Great leadership qualities. Did it while being that you'll ever run into, and absolutely right about that. Last time I saw Zach Thomas, and I was involved in a lot of Dolphin coverage at the time, and it was a kinder, gentler period of time in sports where you seem to get to know the players and have personal relationships with them a little bit, more so than maybe you would with some of today's players. He was at the Fish Shack, which was a dive of a joint in Lighthouse Point. Outstanding place, by the way. And this was really, an out of the way, hole in the wall place. Had only a couple of tables, and he was a regular in there, and he couldn't have been any more personable, like you said. I mean, there was nobody that was going to be troubling Zach Thomas, even though, people naturally are like, holy shit, that's Zach Thomas sitting over there. And he couldn't be any more cordial or humble and, any more of a, nice guy. And like you said, he remembers everything. Like, oh, yeah, Defo, I remember the time we were on that cruise. I'm like, how do you remember that? I don't even remember what happened this morning. Yep. So that was great. All right. The Hall of Fame game. Is it fair to blame Aaron Rodgers for the Jets' loss in the Hall of Fame game? The New York papers, I'm surprised they haven't come around to this yet because we did see Zach Wilson, which is an interesting scenario, throw, a very dynamic touchdown pass in that game. And what do you make of that situation there? I mean, it's obviously, good for the Jets if Zach Wilson, does he hang around there for like a couple of years and eventually when Rodgers goes after 2 or 3 years, do you still want this guy on your roster, or is that even a situation that's conceivable because of what the money might be involved or what money might be involved?
I mean, the ideal scenario would be that somehow, some way, Zach Wilson's able to redeem his career because he was a top pick just a couple of years ago. And so, obviously the skill set has always been there. I think some of the maturity issues have been well documented. And, I've represented players on the team. He's not a bad guy. It's just that, when you come from, where did he come from? BYU, and you end up in New York City, that's quite the adjustment. And so, he's a talented guy. Obviously, he had a couple years there to try to show if he was capable of handling things, and, didn't work out the way anybody would have hoped. And so that's why you have Aaron Rodgers there now, which, talk about an amazing opportunity for a team like the Jets. I mean, this team already has a championship caliber defense. When you watch the games, especially this last season, quarterback was clearly the position that was holding them back from really being able to take that next step. And so to have the opportunity to add one of the all-time greats, if not, to be honest, maybe the best quarterback I've seen, in my days watching football. And as we've discussed over the last several months, I think Aaron still has plenty of gas left in the tank. I think some of the things you saw last season or the season before where he didn't look like himself, it's obvious that he was not happy in Green Bay the last couple of years. The relationship between him and the organization was irreparably damaged. And so I think it's great for everybody for him to be able to move on to a new place at the twilight of his career. Where, he probably has another 2-3 very good years left. So we'll see if he has enough weapons and protection there to, really do the things he needs to do to try to help that team pursue and win a Super Bowl. But one thing I can assure you, this is not Johnny Unitas on the Chargers. This is not Joe Namath on the, where did Joe Namath finish up?
He ended up with the Rams.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. This isn't one of those scenarios where you're talking about a guy that's just completely washed. I mean, I believe, especially, as you've seen Tom Brady, Peyton Manning in this generation with the rules that protect quarterbacks, these guys are able to play at a high level much longer. And therefore, I do think you will see at least a couple more great years out of Aaron Rodgers in New York. And, everything about it. I mean, he just looks more like Aaron Rodgers now, the whole long hair, beard, bizarre, antics, all that other stuff. In my opinion, it was just a passive aggressive way to try to get even with the front office that he perceived disrespected him in Green Bay by drafting a replacement and not giving him any kind of heads up on it. And, probably not adequately addressing some of the team's needs and giving him the weapons he wanted over the last couple of years in Green Bay. So again, it was time for a change, and so it's worked out great for the Jets, and we'll see how it ends up working out for Green Bay. But how it works out for Wilson can only be good, because when you have an opportunity to witness, leadership doesn't just come from Aaron Rodgers putting his arm around Zach Wilson and saying, "Hey, Zach, let's go to dinner tonight." Even though I believe Aaron's the kind of guy who would do that much more so than Brett Favre was the kind of guy who did that for Aaron. And so I think Zach's going to see how you approach things in the meeting room, how you carry yourself around teammates, how you lead by example, and hopefully just watching the film, he will learn from the greatest how to properly read defenses, make good decisions, things like that. So hopefully it's a win-win for everybody, including Zach Wilson, because he's still young. He still has a lot of career left. And hopefully this can be, the 2 steps back that can really allow him to reach his full potential once Aaron's ready to pass the baton.
So the other big saga of this offseason, and it's continued, is the whole Dalvin Cook. What will he do? It seemed like it was a match made in heaven down here in South Florida, but again, with their client Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., they drafted Devin Achane, who they like a lot. They don't really need running backs, and what Cook is looking for financially, the offer they gave was supposedly nowhere near in the same ballpark. So it heads up to New York with the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers reworks his contract to leave money for Cook, and he's tweeting, and he's up there, and he's loving it. But then he doesn't sign there. He comes back down here because he's from Miami, and now we're hearing murmurs with the Dolphins again. As an agent, like when something like this is going on, is it just what you've told us for years? Nothing's going to happen until something has to happen. Like you would think he'd want to get into camp. He'd want to get in with a new franchise, especially with all these different offensive systems. But he seems to be in no rush, and none of these teams seem to be in any rush.
Okay. I can decipher this for you very easily when either as an agent or a player, when you get to the point where you're saying things like, we're looking for the perfect situation, we're looking for a situation where we can win a Super Bowl, that translates to we have nothing.
Oh, geez.
Basically, if this guy had any kind of offer at this point that he thought was halfway decent, they would have taken it. Because when you get released at the time of year that he did, all of the money has dried up. All of the free agency money has long been spent. And, then you've got the secondary market where there's still other very attractive options for teams like Kareem Hunt, like Leonard Fournette. And so as long as those guys are still out there, it gives teams options. And truthfully, obviously this isn't what I would hope for, but with the current climate of the running back market, I'm surprised that, a team like the Giants didn't maybe pull the plug on their offer to Saquon before he went ahead and signed it, or maybe the Raiders pulling the offer, the franchise tender to Jacobs, which these teams are allowed to do until it's signed, and maybe try to get Dalvin for half the money. Because is Dalvin as good as Josh Jacobs? Not quite, but he's still pretty darn good, and he's been very productive. And so if the league sees that position as interchangeable as they clearly do, I'm surprised that you haven't seen teams start resorting to that type of tactic. And so, the reason why Dalvin's out there is because, again, when people mention the Dolphins, that never made sense to me. I never saw that happening. Several months ago when he was still under contract with the Vikings at the very start of free agency, there was discussion that he could be available in trade, but no team was going to take on a 8-figure a year contract for him, as well as give away draft capital to get him. I knew at that time the Dolphins were not interested in him. I mean, that was straight from the horse's mouth. And so if they weren't interested at that point, why would they be interested today? When they've since gone ahead and drafted one of the top running backs on top of the 2 very good running backs that they already have. So, and even beyond Mostert and Wilson, as you mentioned, there's a couple other capable guys who've done it and who've shown flashes of ability. So, in my opinion, New York was a possibility for Dalvin. New England could still potentially continue to be, but more than anything, I think what Dalvin's hoping for is injury or ineffectiveness elsewhere, where a team needs a number 1 back, and then maybe they're willing to give him a little more than he would have otherwise been able to get at this point. But it has been and continues to be a buyer's market. And these teams know it. And that's why everybody's being incredibly patient, because in their mind, there probably are a few teams out there that would certainly love to have Dalvin Cook, but if they felt like he was a guy they couldn't live without, he would have already been signed and paid. So obviously there's nothing to their liking out there. And so the best move on his part continues to be patience, because, my adage is you can always take a bad deal later. And the more time he takes, the better chance that he can find a more opportune situation if a starting running back happens to go down somewhere.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, next time we hear that, we're looking for the perfect situation and we want to win a Super Bowl. We know the guy's got squadooch. So that was good to hear, Brett. All right. One final thing, if you don't mind, and we, aren't exactly plugged into what's happening in Dolphin training camp. But Louis mentioned that he thinks they're high on this running back that they drafted. But I could tell you nothing of significance about the way things are going. Have you seen or heard, what the perception is? Because Lubie's extremely enthusiastic about the upcoming season. Me, maybe not quite as much, but I would like to see them prosper. What are you hearing on the vine about the way things are going? And are there any indicators yet as to what kind of team this is going to be?
I've been doing this long enough to know, Deef, that a week and a half into training camp is just too early to get too excited about a certain player or to get too down about a certain player. I've represented clients who at this point things looked like they were going great for, and then by the time the dust cleared, they were off the team. And then there was other guys I had where it looked like they were struggling mightily early on, where you're thinking, gee, maybe it's possible this guy's never going to be a player in this league. And then they go on to be a 12-year starter. So I've learned that right at this time, things are never quite as good as you think, and they're never quite as bad as you think. The preseason needs to really get going. And then, when you watch some of the film there, then you get a much more accurate assessment. But, it's definitely an exciting and fun time of the year because, this is where you start to get an idea of how things are going to shake out. And, but, as far as the first week, everybody's still knocking off rust. The veterans are just kind of trying to get the timing down a little bit, knock off some rust. The young guys are still finding their footing and, getting their timing down and, trying to develop a chemistry with their new teammates and adapt to their new league. So it's a fun time for everyone. And, as the weeks go on now, it just keeps getting better and better.
All right. Sounds good. Brett, always a pleasure, my friend. Great insight there on the Dalvin Cook thing. I appreciate that. And we'll talk to you again next week. We'll have, some games to actually look at this week, or at least more than the one that was offered up last week. And maybe we'll be able to come to, some kind of idea as to what the hell is going on out there. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine, guys. Take care.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks a lot. So the Finns never wanted this guy.
I don't know if that's true. Look, I understand Tessler.
Does that mean they're going to end up signing him?
I was actually going to message you in the middle of that. I hope the Dolphins don't get him now, because that doesn't look good.
I mean, it happens, right?
Tessler obviously is biased in the sense that his guy's not only there, but Mostert wants a chance to start. If Cook comes in, Mostert is not starting. Mostert's actually not going to get cut a lot in his reps. So he's biased in that regard. At times, I think the Dolphins have not wanted him. But the fact that the flirting has gone on this long, there's definitely interest. Like, to say that there's not interest, I don't believe that at all. There's definitely.
I don't mind these two guys they have running the football.
I'm
and
fine
if you
with
say this
it.
rookie is going to be a contributor right away,
yeah,
Mostert and Wilson,
Yeah,
I mean, they were fine.
Look, the two of them with a young dude, they have enough at running back. Look, Cook to me is better than all three of them, but running back's not their big issue. Their big issue is offensive line. So getting Cook doesn't address that. So I'm okay getting Cook or not getting Cook. I do find it interesting that he played it the way he played it. Like, if Brett knows this, that at that time's a really bad time to get released, wouldn't you try and massage it with the Vikings then and stay? Like, he's going to lose out on money by taking one of these really shitty deals. I mean, I guess if you wait, someone gets hurt, but still, even if someone gets hurt, are they going to open up the piggy bank for him? Like, I don't know if that's what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, that was also, I guess, true that free agent money's already been spent.
Yeah.
So, who has capital now against the salary cap? Unless, you get some kind of benevolent act like apparently Aaron Rodgers made in an effort to try and improve the ball club and figure that if he's going to be there in New York, he wants to be one. I have never seen a guy happier, though, in my life. I don't know that you can be any happier. Well, when Dennis Rodman did that interview with us at the Tiki Bar and he was on some kind of drug that, made me very envious. I'm thinking, whatever that is, Dennis, that you're on tonight, can you get me some? Because I have never seen a guy in a more euphoric mood than Rodman was that night, except for Aaron Rodgers, who, as we've been saying, what hasn't he done since he's gone to New York? He's been everywhere. He's been at the Met Gala, right? And he's like Goose and Kim Kardashian there. And then, he's parasailing over the Hudson River. He's in a Broadway show. They don't even just give him good seats. They let him be in the show
as a cameo.
Right. Comes out there, does a little tap dance. He's ringside for big fights. He's at playoff games. This guy, what did he do in Green Bay, man? He went into like a Ted Kaczynski type of reclusive life. He did. He looked like Nick Cage in Con Air, didn't he, when he was coming to training camp?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, no, he had mailed it in. He definitely was telling them to go fuck themselves. 100%.
Talk about aloof. Short of just wearing the helmet like LaDainian Tomlinson was when he was pissed off that he was taken out of a game or whatever, and he was down the end of the bench there, and you're looking and you're going, who's that guy in the wow, that's Tomlinson. He's not going back in. Rodgers could not have looked any more detached from the Green Bay Packers during, I guess at least the first half of the regular season. And then all of a sudden, he kind of woke up, only to fail in that final game. I don't know if that was his fault, that game against the Lions at the end of the regular season, or people put their finger on Rodgers.
He played.
No, it was just the Lions were a good team. They were on a roll, and the Packers had a flat game that night.
Yes.
At home with a chance to clinch a playoff spot, and it was sayonara, and that was it. So, we'll see. Right now, the people in New York are absolutely euphoric.
Well,
over everything. Rodgers passes gas at practice, and they're analyzing the fact that he's eating well and deducing that from, just the scent alone. It's incredible how this guy is walking on water there. It's great. All right, we're coming back with more here. Thanks to Brett Tessler, the Agent of the Stars, for joining us here on the program. 12 o'clock today, we'll have Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. And, later on this week, we're going to be on the road a couple of times. So looking forward to that. And always fun. I think Seaside Subs is on the ticket.
Thursday. Yep. Thursday.
Can he do it? Can he eat like half of one of those? What was it? A chicken parm sub that we had there that was like off the chart. It's unbelievable. Can he shovel one of those? And that's amazing. He really. Did he set the pace at Las Patas that time? When didn't he shovel a couple of? They had those cut in the quarters though.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, we'll see. All right, so a lot of stuff coming up. 12 o'clock today, we'll have a little Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. He probably had some losing tickets on Maple Leaf Mill. You think he was crying? That's embarrassing. I feel embarrassed that I actually thought about complaining about the fact that I was going to say, boy, I had the Exacta a few times, which I did. But would you be willing to sacrifice the gut punch that you took? Seeing this Exacta blow up in your face at the wire for the sentiment about the horse. Come on, Lubie. What level of humanity have we stooped to when all you're complaining about is that you didn't get the $60 from the Exacta? Unbelievable. It was going to pay about $20. So anyway, see, I'm still complaining about it, Lubie.
Sure.
Subliminal bullshit artist that I am. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:53. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. We kind of eased our way through Appeal Yourself Off the Mat Monday here on the program. A lot of fun being with you. Later on this week, NFL action begins again on Thursday with the Texans and the Patriots. Lubie believes the Patriots are destined to finish last in the AFC East. That would appear to be a veritable certainty. So I am inclined to think that will not happen, Lubie. What can go wrong?
I mean, injuries.
What could happen? I believe, and see, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like duped into thinking a bunch of really stupid things so far about the NFL. But everybody's predicting the demise and the collapse of the Buffalo Bills, that they are shot fighters, that they had their chance, that if they were ever going to do anything of any significance, like win a Super Bowl, last year would have been the year. And yet, they barely got out of the first round there against the Miami Dolphins, who were starting a quarterback that couldn't start for a Pop Warner team, no?
100%, yeah.
How is that possible?
Backup, let alone starter.
So is there a decline, so obvious that we can go ahead and count on that being a condition of what happens during the race in the AFC East this year, which would then have it boil down to two teams, one of which is far more suspect than the other, because we don't know how this thing is going to work out with the Jets, do we?
Oh, no. I have no idea.
If, you could say this, there it is, the giant word at the top of the sports eye chart, if. But, who is more likely to, suffer the effects of being somewhat fragile? Aaron Rodgers, who has not been fragile in his career, or Tua Tagovailoa? Because you would have to think that neither team is going to fare very well if one or the other doesn't have like a sensational season. You would have to think Rodgers, no matter what, he can't help but be an improvement over what they had last year, which was horrific.
Yeah, that's true.
We saw a couple of different versions of Tua, though, didn't we, in the regular season, Lubie? Spectacular early on.
Look, when he had Turn Armstead out there, he was really good. When they went in that's what people forget. When that run where they struggled, where they lose 6 in a row or some stupid ass.
Oh, didn't they beat a bunch of scrub teams, though, when they went on that winning streak? Remember, they were, early in the season. Then they rattled off like 5 in a row or something.
They played a really easy schedule, and then they played tougher teams, and they struggled a little bit. That's when Armstead got hurt. And so we'll see. Armstead's goal is to play 17 games. I'd like you to play 14. Play 14 fucking games. And then they have a chance. We'll see.
But if you have two big holes, though, in your offensive line, which everybody's pointing to.
Yeah, the right guard.
Excuse me.
Left guard. Right tackle.
Yeah. Okay, then the chances, the old Johnny Mathis thing, chances are, how do you do that with the quivering lip? Polyman used to do that very well. Chances are your backups aren't very good, right? Because you can't find two guys to plug in there. Would you say, I don't know that all offensive line positions are interchangeable, but certainly you would think the two guards in the center, those positions are interchangeable, and you have to find somebody at tackle. So if your right tackle sucks now, and what is it, the left guard?
Yes.
Okay. What do they have in behind it?
And the problem is Armstead is another guy. It's not like you can just.
And this guy's not going to play the whole season, you're saying?
That's the thing. So yeah, there's major question marks. with the AFC East. I don't think the Bills are done. I would put them as a slight favorite, but the problem for them is the Jets and Dolphins are better. The Patriots, I think, are the worst, but they're not. I don't think they're a 2-win team. Like there's still some talent there. And the Bills, you get to this thing where at some point, look, you start losing players. Tremont Edmonds, one of their best defensive players, he's gone. They lost some guys on the offensive line. They're now infighting with Stephon Diggs. As much as they would like you to believe otherwise, there is infighting.
He says it's all resolved.
Starts to wear off. McDermott is not a bad coach, but he hasn't been this great coach that's gotten them over the hump in the playoffs. Like,
he always looks angry, doesn't he?
Yes, 100%. Those things start to bubble up, and you see these teams that have these runs, eventually they go the other way. So that's what a lot of people are thinking is this year they go the other way. I think they're going to take a step back, but I'm not writing them off. I mean, I still think they're going to be a factor in the division.
Yeah.
See.
McDermott looks like Jack Smith on the sidelines, doesn't he? In terms of, like, coach's facial appearance. Just stone cold. He doesn't look happy about anything. I don't know. Josh Allen, I was so impressed every time I saw an interview with this kid. I thought, wow, I mean, he is destined for greatness. And then, he started to show some vulnerability later on.
He turns it over. Like, look, the reason why people give him credit was because his issue coming up was turnovers and accuracy. And at times he looks like he gets rid of it. Yeah, early in the season when things aren't on the line. Every time, whether it's late in the season or the playoffs, when things are on the line, he tends to push it too far and make I don't want to say bonehead, but make a risky play he didn't have to make that ends up hurting. Look, that's what kept the Dolphins weren't good. Skylar Thompson was their fucking quarterback, but Josh Allen kept making stupid ass plays, fumbles or interceptions or sacks, where instead of just making the smart, easy throwaway, the smart, easy run out of bounds, the smart, easy check down, he risks it. And that's the thing he's done his whole career.
They should have run the Dolphins out of the building.
They should have annihilated them. It's not like the Dolphins played fantastic.
No.
It's that the Bills kept giving the Bills, meaning Josh.
What's the guy's name? Skylar Thompson?
Yeah, he sucks. He's not an NFL. He's not even a backup. Mike White's going to supersede him as a backup. He's going to be third string again. Like, Josh Allen hasn't grown out of that. So all the people that wanted to keep all this praise on him because he's a big, strong dude who could make these great throws.
He looks the part.
But one, he was playing really well. The problem is he makes a lot. He led the league in turnovers again, and this isn't the 90s. Where
he's kind of an athletic Roethlisberger.
Yeah, yes. He's a little bit more fat. He's a little bit faster than Roethlisberger, a little bit leaner than Roethlisberger. A
little stronger, yeah.
But he makes more mistakes. Like, Roethlisberger actually wasn't chuck it guy. Like, he actually didn't make a lot of mistakes. Like, Allen makes a ton of mistakes. Like, he just does. And this is year, whatever, 6, 7, 5, whatever the fuck it is, so we'll see.
All right. You got the Dolphins winning and all. Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. And then again tomorrow. Should have some fun. Going to be a good week. We get deeper and deeper into things here and more of a lean towards, just desperate degeneracy. Betting NFL football and a college game coming around as well. Thanks to Lubie. Always a pleasure. Thanks to Brett Tessler for joining us here on the program. For Lubie and Brett and all of the people that tuned in, we appreciate that very much and applaud you for having the patience to put up with us. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.